The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is a TGIF in the Riv. And boy, what do we have to talk about today?
Absolutely nothing. Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
We got to talk about the mayor and all the court cases that go on in the city of on everything.
Yeah,
but I mean,
Boston one.
The mayor. Well, go ahead. All right.
Let's start with the mayor's case, okay? Because I think that's more important. He hired. Now I love this. He hired a Boston attorney with a Portuguese name. That was the first thing that got me. I don't know if he was going for, brownie points at the courthouse or what, but Peter Mello seems to be a pretty decent attorney. I've seen some of his cases, on his Facebook page, not his Facebook page, on his corporate website page. He lists some of the cases that they've won. He's a civil attorney with a background in politics. So this definitely is going to work for him. And then on the city side, of course, on the city council side, we had, KP Law. And that was definitely an interesting take because the judge wasn't happy with them. And the judge wasn't happy with our charter.
And frankly, the judge wasn't happy with the charter.
That's right. He wasn't happy with the charter.
And that's the reason I really kind of normally save the best for last. But there's a lot of debate here. This is, I mean, look, we all know the judges are appointed by mayors who put political leverage to get them appointed. One of our problems we've always had with the state of Massachusetts with politically appointed judges, because you can say what you want, but the fact is they are political. And some of the decisions we've seen by many, many judges go along political lines and liberal and conservative lines, and even though they're not supposed to. So, all right, let's get to this disaster. And what is the core issue of this disaster? The disastrous charter.
Charter, of course.
The pathetic charter. And this is a quote that the judge said. He said call the provision, which relates to this, quote unquote, pretty important, to be given, listen to be given vague requirements regarding the temporary removal of mayor. Quote, the one-sentence description is pretty innocuous, unquote. You know what he's saying in real terms? This language is absolute crap. We spent $40,000 on a consultant to put together this piece of trash. And I don't hate to. I told you so. We told you so. The people who opposed this charter and Charter Commissioner Danny Robillard told you so. But again, you buy the cons of the professional BSs. You let them convince you to pay more taxes on the school, and you let them convince you to vote for this piece of crap who was fashioned by politicians. Shame on Mike Mioza. He's a politician. He continues to be a politician. This charter is a political document, and if he ever runs for political office, I will remind everybody of the abysmal job that he did as chairman of this committee. And if he wants to come on and debate it, we'll be glad to have him. So now that I went on that rant, because this charter really irritates because it's been nothing but problems. And when this is over, the city council and the people of Fall River better move to throw this charter in a trash can where it belongs and get a new one.
Hey, no argument from me on that. I've been against this charter since day one, just as you have. The only person on the entire charter commission that knew what the hell they were talking about was Dan Robillard, because Mike Mioza and Chris Bartley were the two that was trying to shove it down everyone's throat, and they kept taking away things that people in the public wanted. People wanted ward councilors, but he didn't want to do it.
People wanted to fix the recall process.
That's right. They wanted that process fixed, and he didn't fix that. So again, who were you representing? We get into this problem. Went into this problem. What you want? Because I'm smart. You're stupid.
But remember what the mayor said in his transcript of his quote-unquote secret meeting. Steve Camara is a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a friend. He doesn't care about right or wrong. Of course, he did the Steve Camara thing. He's defending innocence and we went over that. That's all crap. And we know that he's full of crap, and we know Steve's full of crap because he lied about where he lived for the last 5 years.
Exactly.
So anybody that doesn't even tell the people of Fall River the truth, they should take his salary back.
Yeah, really.
The city should move to take back every single penny he has been paid as a city councilor because he was not a resident.
That's right. And his nomination papers should have been taken right off the bat because he wasn't a citizen when he took them out.
And you were right. You presented a prima facie case that should have been acted on. And another politician, a guy who had a nice city job, appointed job, personnel director, Darrell Gagnon, put the kibosh on that.
That's right.
Because, again, politics rears its ugly head. And, if the city council fails in their attempt, it will not be because they were not right in attempting to do what they did. It will be because this charter is defective and deficient. They will lose on a legal interpretation of the language. And as the judge said, of those who and as the attorney said, those who crafted the charter didn't try to limit it, and they could have, but they should have. I disagree with that. She's using it as a thing. But then Mello goes on to the gravity. I want to emphasize the gravity, said Mello. That's a quote. Another quote. We are talking about unseating a mayor in one of the largest cities in the state, unquote. The attempted action by the council would cause, quote, a state of confusion and uncertainty. I wasn't in a courtroom. I hope the attorney for the city council, after he made that statement, before he finished it, jumped up and told the judge that the mayor agreed to abdicate all his power to the city council if they let him stay in office. So he fundamentally said, all I want to do is sit in that office and collect my paycheck. He said that. Am I right?
I remember that.
He sent it to the city council, a deal to have them co-sign every single thing he did. So why do we really need him if he was already going to give it to the city council? And if that argument wasn't made, it should have been. So this is absolute. This is
Horse
crazy.
hockey.
Yeah, it is horse manure to the highest degree. You don't need hip boots. You need a hazmat suit because you're going to be over your head in it. I'll tell you, this is horrible. And you know something? It's bad enough when we got to litigate the issue on the issue. But since the day after the charter went into effect, we already had a problem with it?
Yes, we did.
We have not had one important political issue that's come before this city that didn't involve some interpretation of the charter because of its vagueness, its ambiguity. This document is a travesty, an absolute travesty. And we're going to continue. So if this fails, and it may very well fail because...
That's what it sounded like when the judge was talking.
Yeah. Bless you, Carlos. If you picked up that sneeze on the mic. Okay. Carlos is, we have a viewer in the audience today.
The mayor of the Flint.
The mayor of the Flint. Yeah, it's a shame because, number one, he won a recall because the recall language wasn't cleared up.
That's right.
Now we can't get him out of office, even though 80% of the people want him out of office because of the charter.
The hell with what the people want.
The hell with what the people. The charter is so pathetic, it actually contradicts our own Commonwealth's Constitution. It says we're the boss. And if you think about it, one of the primary reasons that I oppose this charter is they said the charter revisions are going to be handled by the politicians.
That's right.
And people appointed by the politicians.
That's right.
They took the people completely out of the process in this charter. So people, anybody who voted for this, you bought a skyscraper on top of a mountain in Florida. Or you can't read. Because this was a political document fashioned by political insiders to put politicians in power, not the people. To remove power from the people at every turn, including fixing it. We can't fix it. I had a conversation about this last night with somebody. Well, we're going to have a charter review, right? I said, no, you're not going to have a charter review. You're going to have absolutely no input in it. It's going to be the city council and people they appoint. It's going to be politicians and their appointees who are going to look over, reevaluate the charter. We're not going to have any input in it. That's why it needs to be dumped. So, you know, forgive me if this is a burr in my saddle, but it is. Every time I see this disaster, and we talk about it as the fundamental constitution of this city.
It's interesting because this document abdicates your rights.
Of course.
You abdicated your rights when you voted for this thing. I didn't vote for it.
Yeah.
But when you voted for it, people, you abdicated your rights. And the only way that you are going to be represented in a charter review is to go out and get 15,000 signatures and have this process started all over again. That's why they make it so hard for it to happen.
That's right. And remember the excerpt we talked about when we were discussing why we were against the charter about, I forgot exactly which, there's a few actions, and for political reasons, you have to have all 9 councilors seated.
Yep.
So that means anytime somebody has a political, they're not in favor politically, they can just get up and walk out of the council chamber. There goes the vote. Mm-hmm. And how about a great objection? No grounds for an objection. If you object in court, you have to give grounds. I object, leading the witness. I object, prejudicial. They wrote a document that allows anybody like Steve Camara to just gum up the works because he feels like it. I object. Why? Because.
Because
you're like a little child. Why do you want it, Johnny? Because. Because what? Because I want to.
That's right.
And that's what they did. This is what you approved. So, it's not our fault. I'm using it. I'm using it in its generic sense. It's the people's fault.
That's right.
As you said, CJ, we gave up. We abdicated our right by accepting this charter. You made this city what it always has been behind the scenes.
And now it's right there in front of the curtains.
Now it's the document that runs the city. Yep. Totally political.
Absolute BS. Total
Absolute
BS.
BS.
Yep.
So with that, we'll wait for the judge, because all the rest of the crap you can read in the article by Joe Gooden. It's not that long an article. You read the pleadings, as I said. We can all see. Let's see what happens. But let's get to the other court cases.
Oh, well, let's see. We were in federal court. We were in the U.S. District Court for 3 cases, actually, for Jasiel Correia, Jen Andrade, and Joshua Hetzler.
Yeah.
The Correia and the Andrade cases happened pretty rapidly with just motions. They didn't even have to show up. Pleas of not guilty were entered. Court dates were set up to come up again. They're due back in court. Jasiel's due back in court in about a week, 2 weeks. Jen Andrade's due back in court October 30th. I mean, these dates are really starting to drag out. This is getting to be ridiculous. But Josh Hetzler now. You know, I haven't really had a great deal of trust in Attorney Macy, but I read his brief on this issue, 20 pages long, with case law coming out of the wazoo on how to restrict governmental employees from serving in political office at the same time. Not only in mass law, but in United States law. Across the country, he came up with the law. And he made the argument very clear that the city has a right to keep its people, especially its organized labor, out of political office. And then he cited case after case after case after case, which was very interesting because I honestly didn't think he was going to find a case to support him, but he found a lot. Josh Hetzler, on the other stand, he's just staying there, well, this is a violation of my First Amendment rights.
And that's the problem. And the problem is there are a lot of opinions. I'm aware of those opinions because obviously I was in labor.
Right.
But you can't, we can't restrict politicians from being politicians, but we can, because politicians have a vested interest. We can't have the Friends of Pharmaceuticals not hold office. We can't have the Friends of Big Oil and Big Pharma not hold office. But we can try to restrict organized labor. And why do they do that? Because they win. And I don't think he's got a Supreme Court decision on it. He may. I haven't read the entire brief. I haven't read the brief. But the fact is that these things get put in. Why? Not because they're right, because you can't fight City Hall. Nobody's got the money. Nobody's got the money to go to the Supreme Judicial Court. Because do I understand the law? Yeah. Do I agree with these decisions? No. Do I have to abide by them? Unfortunately, yes, until I can overturn the law. And the problem is nobody's ever had the money, the time, or the resources to fight a person's fundamental right, and the fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution to be part of our government. Appointed in the major labor organizations like the International Association of Firefighters, the AFL-CIO, should have fought every one of these cases tooth and nail. They should have fought them to the Supreme Court of the United States. Men and women died to create labor unions. They were killed on picket lines, bludgeoned by Pinkertons. Organized labor is a right. In the state of Massachusetts, for sure, it's right in the law. You have the right to organize a union. You can organize in any state. It's more difficult in some of the right-to-work states, but you can't organize. But what disturbs me is these giant unions that have got millions and millions of dollars in resources, like AFL-CIO, Teamsters, IAFF, should be taking on these cases. They do a good job. They fight IFF for PSOBs and cancer, did a lot of research into cancer to get the cancer bills pushed through. But this is an important issue. This is a fundamental right of every person to me in the United States. If you're not a convicted serial killer, you are a tax-paying, law-abiding citizen. Because you are a member of a labor union, you should not be prohibited from holding public office. I don't see any problem with them saying you have to pick a salary like they did in the old days with Counselor Veloza, who was a school teacher. They said, well, you have to pick your school teacher's salary or the counsel's salary. Of course, he picked the school teacher's salary. And he had to recuse himself on anything that had to do with the school department. Why? They're saying Joshua Hetzler can't vote on things because it might influence his brother firefighters? That's horse crap. I almost said the bad word. But
That's no longer a bad word.
But, I can say shit? Okay.
The FCC cleared it.
Okay. All right, then I will say it more often then. Okay. But I don't see a problem. A man who owns a business, who has a contractor coming in who he's doing business with on a city council, isn't prohibited from running for city council because someone may or may not. Cliff Ponte is not prohibited from being on a city council because there may be a real estate issue that he's involved in. He has to recuse himself.
And he has. I've seen him
And
do
he
that.
has.
I've seen
And
him do
so
that
have
several times.
other
Yep.
people. And so did Councilor Veloza many years ago. This really, really bothers me. Because whether I'm going to vote for Joshua Hetzler or not is irrelevant. Even people who are not going to vote for him should understand his fundamental right as a citizen and as a resident, and I hope he doesn't live in Westport near Steve, but I'm just being facetious.
I know you are.
But, he's a taxpayer. He's a citizen of Fall River. He is the government. He deserves the right to run to become part of it and let the people decide whether they want him in or not, with that restriction that he has to recuse himself, as we do with Cliff Ponte, as we do with every single member, because there's not one person sitting in a city council, on a school committee, in any governmental body that doesn't have something that could ultimately be defined as a conflict, so nobody could hold office under those conditions. So the reality is, it's crazy. And all he's got is his constitutional right. I hope some judge wakes up and says, you know something, all these decisions may not be in the best interest of upholding the Constitution, and I wish him luck.
Yeah, well, while many of the decisions that were presented did involve people who were associated with organized labor, I don't think the entire issue revolves around organized labor. And I'm not saying that because I want to defend Joe Mason's positions.
But it also revolves around anybody
Right.
who is a city employee.
Right.
They think that Lincoln freed the slaves, but politicians re-enslaved public employees.
Well, didn't you read that little caveat in Lincoln's freedom declaration?
Yeah.
Except for municipal employees.
Because municipal employees have been required to live in the city they work in.
Right.
If you work for IBM or some major corporation, you can work in New York City and live in New Jersey. You get to work on time. Nobody tells you, look, you're working, our office is in New York City. You have to live in New York City. But public employees are mandated, and the government allows that, and sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. So public employees are required to live where maybe they don't want to live. Nobody else does in the United States. Government employees are not now entitled to hold office and be part of the government. And that's okay. Well, I'm sorry, that's discrimination. That is discrimination. It is against our freedom as in the United States. It's wrong. It is I don't care what anybody will tell me. They can't convince me it's okay. You've created a class with restrictions. Restrictions that are not allowed by the Constitution of the United States. So, a lot of them got to do with they know they're from labor unions. They're always against labor unions. But they're not against big oil giving them zillions of dollars in contributions, or the Koch brothers buying them houses in Trinidad or wherever they want a house. But that's okay for them to get millions and billions of dollars from these people. But organized labor, they got to have PACs, they got all kinds of restrictions, and organized labor is the bad people. I'm sorry. This is absolute crap. So,
we once used to have a time that we said, you can't have a job here because you're black. You can't have a job here because you're Irish. You can't have one because you're Portuguese. You can't because you're Chinese. You can't because you're Japanese. Now the rule is you can't have one because you're a municipal employee.
That's right. we freed all those groups.
We freed everyone else.
Let's free the public employees, Josh. I wish you luck. I hope you're the beginning of freeing the public employees from the shackles of being you're not the appointees. Isn't it amazing that all our appointed big money people they can live anywhere they want?
Yep. What's very interesting, though, is the fact that none of these decisions could be rendered, and I don't blame them, because if they issued them instantly, I would have said either the case was so prima facie that you could see it right on your face and it was smacking you, or the lawyers were just really poor at arguing their case. But they're all going to be rendered over the next couple of weeks. Now, this could be a problem, because if Josh Hetzler doesn't get his injunction, and Joe Macy put on a very good argument in his brief on why he shouldn't have an injunction, because injunction will affect municipal government and the municipal outcomes, and it will affect the election process. And the burden of proof to get that injunction is on Josh Hetzler. And I don't know if he met that burden or not,
You're right. And look, we don't know, because remember, we're dealing with appointed judges, just like when we tried to get elected judges, the politicians blocked us. The judges blocked us. The judges ruled on themselves. So,
just like we wanted to make term limits, and the judges blocked us again.
So what's the moral of this story?
Don't like judges.
No, the moral of this story is what we closed the show with on Wednesday. Vote. Drain the swamp. Put people in Boston, put people in Washington who will turn this around, who won't protect the protected class, who won't protect the judges. Put people in Boston who will overturn this and say, okay, you elected me, you can elect judges. Because that's what we want. They don't care what you want. And anybody who's in Boston or Washington or the city council or the mayor's office who doesn't want to do what you want, doesn't want to respond to the majority, doesn't belong there. Just as when Jasiel Correia II at his secret meeting said, I want to win on a plurality again, admitted that he doesn't want to be the choice of the people. He just wants to be mayor.
He just wants to be in the office. That's it.
That's right.
That's
exactly.
It. And that's what's going to make it interesting. We're going to see over the next couple of days, couple of weeks, on what's going to happen in Fall River, especially with all these court cases, and who's going to win. That's the big question.
And believe me, right does not always prevail,
That's
as
right.
we well know. If the glove don't fit, you must quit.
Hey, everyone, have a good weekend. It's starting to get chilly out there, so stay warm and stay angry.